What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the monster slate for Wednesday. There's 12 games tonight, so a lot to discuss. Let's get started. As always, appreciate if you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Looking back at yesterday, I said got some comments to review, like how yesterday went, and this is what we ended up with: 268 and a 0.75 on the Draftkings. I didn't have to change any of the core picks from yesterday because there wasn't any injury news. But I always have to change them most nights when we do have news, especially like tonight. We'll probably have a lot of news with it being 12 games. But got the win. The core was had some really solid plays with DeMarcus Cousins, Trey Young, and Gobert. Young and Gobert were low owned for a 3-game slate. John Wall was fine. Played, he scored a little bit less than Bradley Beal, who was way more expensive and was like way more popular. Uh, Williams wasn't great. Kennard was all right, and the Morris wasn't great, but at least in cash, Morris was chalk. So only really terrible play was probably Lou Williams, but I got the win on both. And like Jerome Robinson didn't play much. Pretty surprising because he did have a really good game the previous game. They brought him off the bench, but back to tonight's picks. So looking at this 12-game slate, if you want to join us for this one, you can visit the website. Links in the description. Follow me on Twitter for updates at the DFS process, and all of the info you need is in the description. So we'll get started looking at the point guard options. I will run through them a little bit quickly because could be here for 45 minutes if I kind of touch on every single one really closely. At point guard, the guys that I'm really looking at are like Steph Curry at 9,300. I think looks like a great play against the Timberwolves. You have Trey Young, who looks fine as well against Brooklyn, but it is a back-to-back for them. So it's a little bit of a risk, but Young is fine, I think. Well, Curry looks really good. He's only 9,300. It's a really good spot against Minnesota. They play no defense. Should be a high-scoring game. They just played this team last time. They put up 130 points. Curry had like 15 points in 3 minutes at one point. He looked really underpriced on DraftKings. I also do like Trey Young. Westbrook might be sitting on a back-to-back, so we got to keep an eye on that. Malcolm Brogdon looks really good if there's no Sabonis tonight, so you got to keep an eye on that. Sabonis misses, and Brogdon looks like a great play at 8,600. Other potential candidates are like not that interested in SGA at 85. I do love Chris Paul at 7,600. No Devin Booker again. We saw what he did last time. That game did go into I think double overtime, so he got 10 extra minutes, but it was also a back-to-back, so we only played 32 minutes in regulation. But got a couple days off. They got like 3 days off, so you should be good to go and playing like 35 to 38 minutes tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's a good spot for the Suns, especially Chris Paul. So I love Chris Paul at that price tag. Other guys at point guard, you have some affordable ones like Colin Sexton is only 6,600. It makes for a nice tournament option. You have Mr. Nut Punch Jamal Murray, 7,100. Won't be playing him, but I just wanted to say that. Other guys that look fine are like Kemba Walker at 63, but the Celtics, now that they're getting healthy with Tatum and Brown and Kemba, one of those three is going to have a bad game probably once a night. I mean, it's going to be tough for all three of them to kill value, so I do like the price tag on Kemba, but there are some other options. LaMelo Ball's price tag has gone really, really down. He went from 79, 78, 72, 69 down to 62. The minutes have also kind of been down. But he's also a guy that if he's playing well, he also hasn't been playing great, but if he is getting hot off the bench, he's going to be out there. So he's a tournament option. He's not a cash play, but definitely a fine tournament option on a huge slate. Cole Anthony is starting to kind of find his shot. He shot the ball well in like 4 straight games, which is a good sign for him and the Magic as a whole. He's priced at a point where I don't know you'll get like 7x value. You probably get like 6x. I think it's going to be tough for him to hit like 40 now that Fournier is back and Aaron Gordon is back. So he looks like a fine option. It is a good spot against Sacramento, but I don't think he's the best like cheap option. And then you keep scrolling down, you have Darius Garland, who's been coming off the bench his last few games. If he jumps back into the starting lineup, he's at a price tag where he could be a decent option, really cheap. And then you can look to Raul Neto if Russell Westbrook sits on a back-to-back, he would be a good option as a cheap play. George Hill is questionable. If he's out, then we can look to probably Diallo, maybe Maladon. And that's mainly it at point guard. At shooting guard, Bradley Beal looks good if there's no Westbrook. I don't think he's a must even if Westbrook sits, because he has 10,200, so you do need 60 DraftKings points at least out of him. Shooting guard is somewhat thin at the top. You have Bradley Beal and then Harden, but I'm not playing any of the big three on the Nets when they're all healthy. So scroll down a bit. You have Andrew Wiggins, who did go off against his former team. He's a candidate, but I do like Steph Curry a little bit more. Keep going down a bit. Probably a spot to go somewhat cheap here. I do think that you could look to one of the Suns' cheap options without Booker, who's out again tonight with a hamstring injury. You do have a nice price tag on Jeremy Lamb, who looks really good if there's no Sabonis tonight. Played 33 minutes, so doesn't look like he's on a limit anymore. That was also on a back-to-back situation. He looks to be a good option here. Assuming Sabonis sits, even if Sabonis is in, I don't think he's the worst play. It's a matter of time before he jumps back into the starting lineup. And he's only 5,100, so if you don't want to get up to Brogdon, you can still get a lot of offensive punch out of Jeremy Lamb. And I love the fact that he got up to 33 minutes last game. So other guys at this position that look fine, you have not that interested in Dort. Like Will Barnes is cheap, but the Nuggets are really healthy now, so it's tough to kind of trust them. Yellow looks okay if they're missing George Hill again. And you could look to you could punt with like Joe Ingles, but none of these guys look that appealing right now. And then I don't think we have any cheap options that are worth mentioning. Maybe like Carter could be a decent option, but there are some good options that are cheap that we'll get to. At small forward here, you have like Durant. I'm not going to play any of the Nets' big three when they're all healthy, especially on a huge slate like this. I'm looking at like Gordon Hayward has really come on strong as of late. He is 7,500, playing big minutes, really scoring the ball, being assertive and aggressive on offense. It's a tough matchup against the Pacers, but I just like the way he's looked, so I don't mind rolling him out there at 7,500. Do have some awesome price tags on like DeMar DeRozan is down to 7,100. It's not an easy spot against Boston, but just way too cheap of a price tag for DeRozan, a guy that is averaging on the season. He's averaging like 40 DraftKings points, so we're averaging almost 6x value on this price tag. He's just way too cheap. Last game was a blowout. He's also in foul trouble, but he's really getting you big time minutes in the mid 30s, and I just think he's too cheap here. So you also do have like Dejounte Murray 66, but I'd rather just pay 500 more for DeRozan. Yeah, DeMar DeRozan is really strong play at that position at small forward. You also have DeAndre Hunter, who's looking good. He looks fine at 6,500. You have, don't think that many guys look that appealing here. I like Bridges at 53. Without Devin Booker, he looks like a good option. You also have Cam Johnson at 48, who jumped into the starting lineup, and they said he's going to start over Jay Crowder going forward. And then you have like Diallo, Bonga. You have Robinson if there's no Westbrook tonight. He is kind of been priced up now, so he's not a must, but looks fine if he's starting. Then see if there's anybody that is below 4,500. Not a ton here that looks that appealing. So probably just avoid it unless we get some more injury news. Moving on to power forward here, you have Giannis priced at 10.7. This game is going to be fun to watch. I don't know if it'll be the best for fantasy purposes, but Giannis is always in play at his price tags. I do like some cheaper options at this position here. You do have a good tag on like Hayward if you wanted to play him here. Have a decent tag on Tobias at 72, but Embiid should be back. Prime time game against the Lakers, so Tobias is going to be tough to get to. Aldridge is really cheap at $6,000. For some reason, he's just really underpriced. You have Kelly Oubre, looks fine. I like a couple of other Warriors, but he's still priced at a good tag. And then you can look to like Cam Johnson if you wanted to go cheap here. You can look to Like maybe you can look to like Bridges from the Hornets, but it's kind of a punt, really punt play, and like if you're playing a bunch of teams to roll them out there in a few. So not a ton. Maybe you can play DeRozan at power forward instead. Lots to touch on at center here. You have Jokic at only 10.5, so his price tag has come down a bit. It's not an easy spot against the Heat, but he's been like a triple double every few games, multiple times a week. He looks like a good option if you can get up to him. You have Clint Capella's 91. It looks like that's going to be the norm for Capella. Good spot against Brooklyn. Against DeAndre Jordan should have a huge game rebounding. I also have Nick Vucevic, who looks strong at only 9,200 against this Sacramento front court. You should be able to dominate the paint. So many good center options tonight. Also have Embiid at 94, who's been making a case for MVP this season. All three of these guys look strong. I like Embiid the most, then Vucevic, then Capella. Not interested really in Drummond at 84. I think Bam, I'm not going to have him either at 86. And then you have like DeAndre Ayton, who's really cheap. You have also Rudy Gobert, who looks great at 7,200. But I like Ayton a lot at this price tag. He's just cheap without Devin Booker going to be the second option to score the basketball. Going to get a lot more looks, and let's see him have a good game in the paint here against Isaiah Roby, against Mike Muscala. There's not too much resistance on the side of OKC. So love DeAndre Ayton and his price tag. And then you have a couple guys that look good that are cheap, like Steven Adams at 5,500 looks like a fine option. Aldridge is cheap, but he's been tough to trust this season. The one guy that I think looks like a good option that is really cheap is Cody Zeller. Only 3,400 for him. He's been back for a few games. He played 11, 15, 18 minutes. He played 15 and 18 on a back-to-back set. So good sign for him that he'll probably get into the 20s after they got a day off yesterday. So I feel like he can get you in the low 20s in minutes. And he's a guy that when he is healthy and playing a lot, he's going to be like mid 4K range player, like $4,500 to $4,900 player. Nice tag on him at only 3,400. Could be a sneaky double candidate depending on the Pacers. Also, if Sabonis is in, they play big, so probably be out there for a little bit more. So as of now, I think he looks like a good cheap option. If we get the more cheaper, better plays, then you can definitely go cheap at like one of the forward spots, and then you can pay up for another center because there are a ton of good center options. So that's pretty much it for the DraftKings side. Touch on Fanduel now. All right, over on Fanduel here, looking at point guard options. Starts with Luka Doncic, is 11.5 now. Went off last game. Props to him. He's been killing it recently. His price tag took a little bit of a jump, and now he's going into Utah. I think I'll probably not have him unless we get some crazy value on the slate. There are a ton of good point guard options. You have Steph Curry at almost $2,000 cheaper at 96. You have Brogdon at only 83 if there is no Sabonis. You have De'Aaron Fox at 79. You have Chris Paul at only 74. He's definitely going to be a guy that I get to. Almost had a triple-double. Probably should have had a triple-double. I think he missed it by 1 assist or 1 rebound. But he looks like a great option without Devin Booker. It wasn't even too popular last game. Other guys that look fine are like Goran Dragic if there's still no Butler. You have decent tag on like Ricky Rubio if there is no D'Angelo Russell. Cole Anthony looks fine on FanDuel. And then not a ton that I'm really looking at unless Westbrook misses. Then you have Raul Neto at only 4,200. You got Patty Mills. Tough matchup, but he's actually been fine off the bench. And then Carter, if he's starting. Going on to shooting guard. Bradley Beal looks like a good option if there's no Westbrook at this position. I like DeMar DeRozan a little bit. I like Russell if he's in at only 75. Also against his former team. Have Andrew Wiggins at only 68. He looks fine. Shooting guard is a little bit tough on FanDuel, I think, just because there are a lot of ways to go. You have Buddy Hield at only 55 against Orlando. You have Jeremy Lamb at 5,200. Clarkson's been doing great. He's only 53. If the Hawks are missing Reddish again, you can look to Herter. And mainly it here. I'm not that interested in going that cheap here, but you do have like Lonnie Walker or Gary Harris that look. They can have a good game once in a blue moon. But I think I'll probably stick with Jeremy Lamb. I like his price tag on both sites, especially if there's no Sabonis. He's going to have to score and get a lot more usage. And I wouldn't be surprised if they say he's starting tonight. Small forward, we have Grant, who had a big bounce back game against the Sixers. Now he's facing the Cavs. He looks like a decent option. He's priced up, though. He's kind of been priced that same price tag, but he looks fine against Cleveland. Brandon Ingram's price tag keeps going down. He's down to 75 against Washington. Probably a good spot to jump on Brandon Ingram. Then you have like Evan Fournier at only 59 against Sacramento. He looks like a good option. DeAndre Hunter looks strong. Kelly Oubre looks like a good play. Bridges, you got a lot of guys in the 5K range that look great. Also have Cam Johnson, who's cheap at 46. Don't mind don't mind spending down for a couple of those cheap options on FanDuel because they all look really good in the 5K range. I think I'll probably stick with like I don't know, Bridges, Hunter, Oubre, and Fournier all look like good options. I'll probably just go with Fournier at 59. At power forward, we have Giannis at 11.3, Tatum at 96. Don't think I'll have Giannis on FanDuel. I don't think I'll have Davis either, or Bam, or Tatum. Sabonis is in. I think he looks fine against Charlotte. You have Aaron Gordon, who's affordable now. It's only 6,800, so he looks like a good play. You have Aldridge at only 57, so he's not been good, but he looks like a good option. Blake Griffin out again for rest? Well, that's great. So no Blake Griffin is going to help. It's going to help Detroit a little bit. So back to small forward, we can definitely look to Josh Jackson. It's 4,300 if you wanted to. I'll probably go to Oubre here because power forward, I do like Aaron Gordon. I don't think I want to have both Fournier and Gordon in the same lineup on a 12-game slate. So I like Gordon and his tag on FanDuel especially. And then you have like decent tag on Jared Allen, but coming off the bench. He's not going to have a good game every time, but could be a sneaky option against Detroit. Roby still really cheap on FanDuel at only 45. He looks good. And mainly it. Like Kuzma's only 39, but it's been I don't like playing him unless LeBron or Davis are out. And that's pretty much it. So I do like Gordon at only 6,800. He's been doing great for the Magic and been pretty consistent, hitting a lot of assists, being a point forward for the team. Don't know why his price tag came down significantly when the matchup just became really, really good. And then last but not least, at center here, we have will not have Clint Capella at 10.5, even though I like how he's looked. Like, how can he not? But I can't play him over a cheaper Embiid. Visovic is over $1,000 cheaper. DeAndre Ayton is way cheaper at 8,300. I like those three quite a bit. Still waiting to see if Al Horford, whenever he makes his return. You have Steven Adams at only 5,000 against Washington. He looks to be a pretty good option here, especially with the Pelicans not having played since the 2030. Should be well rested and good to go. Don't know why he's that cheap. Light to pay for some other spots. So if you wanted to go cheap at center, I think Steven Adams is your guy. And then you can always go to like DeAndre Jordan at 43 against a big Atlanta team. Then you have like Alex Len at 4,000. And Cody Zeller is really cheap, but I think it's tough to kind of sacrifice your center spot for a guy that might only play in the low 20s on Draftkings. It's a different story. So I'll probably go with, probably end up with Steven Adams or end up paying up for Vucevic, DeAndre Ayton, or Embiid. That's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching, and best of luck tonight.